Ladies and genitals, here we are once again in Mixdown HQ with the Renegade Masters, Mr. Sean Vincent and Dan Peters, for another exciting, exhilarating episode of Is It No Messing Plugin Reviews. And we're starting today looking at...
Today, Dan, we are looking at the SSL 4KE channel from SSL themselves.
We all know how much Sean loves an SSL.
Love an SSL. Been waiting for this one because the E series was the very first SSL I ever used, and it's what I learnt on. And the the SSL Channel Strip 2 that comes, which came first, it's based on a much later series desk, and although very familiar, not exactly the same. Then they released the 4KB, which was their very early desks from sort of the 70s, and it was quite a different sound actually. It's very analogy, lots of harmonics, kind of different architecture, slightly different EQ. So they finally released the E series channel strip, which is the familiar one.
Okay, so I'm going to get comfortable here. I just bed in and over to you.
Well, what do you want to know, Dan? I mean, it's the E series channel strip. It has got everything the E series had in a very familiar way. It's got the EQ exactly the same. It's got a couple of clever little tricks. So if you push the button, and if you've got the controller, you can push the physical button, or on the actual plugin, it's the button next to the EQ in button. You can flip between the brown, the black, or the orange low end EQ. So there was different series of EQs for the E series desks, and they all have slightly different sounds. So yeah, you can flip between them, try them out, see how they sound.
So give us a bit of history for those that don't know much about SSL.
Yes,
give us a bit of a on the series, the different series. This is, you were saying, the original.
Well, yeah, it's not the first desk they made. I only know the bit that affected me. So the 4KB, as they call it now with the plugin, that was a desk they made in the late 70s. I think they had one at Townhouse. And that sort of got them started, I think. And then very early on in the 80s, the E series came out. And at that point, they just sold them to a lot of big studios all over the world because it had some unique features. Every single channel, and this was a new thing really, it had happened a bit but not to the extent at which SSL did it. Every single channel had a dynamic section. So you had a compressor, you had a gate, you had filters, you had EQ, there was a B fader, so there's a mini fader, so that could you could set that up to do whatever you wanted. So that could be the send to tape, it could be the return from tape, it could be an alternative input, so every channel could have two things on it, an A and a B. You could send both of them to the mix bus if you wanted. It had loads of clever things it could do. It had 24 channel routing at the top of every channel, so you could send every input to any channel on a 24 channel tape deck, which at the time everyone was using 2-inch 24 tracks. It had all kinds of clever stuff. So it had VCA control, so you could send things to VCA groups, and they then went to the stereo
voltage
master.
Controlled amplifiers.
Yeah, analog, full on analog.
Yeah.
Later ones had automation, which when I first heard that I was going to be learning an SSL 4K E series desk with automation, I was like, oh, amazing. You know, this was 1990 I first used one. And I, in my head, assumed that automation meant that you could do something and it would then repeat that move for you. And when you recalled your mix, the mix would come back. Kind of what we have now with computers.
Yeah.
That wasn't it at all. No. What actually happened was you had this terrible little monitor, which was like a green screen thing, and it stored your settings as little pictures. So recalling a mix meant you know, channel at a time, you'd turn the knob until the knob on the screen changed colour. And then you knew it was in the right place. So it would still take you sometimes an hour.
Genius.
To recall a mix. So yeah,
I thought you were going to say striping the tape there.
Oh well, you had to do that too. So you lose one of your 24 tracks to SMPTE. Yeah, and that's then what drives the desk for the automation, which meant you could do things like quite often we would do auxiliary pushes. You know, you'd push a snare into a delay or whatever, and you'd automate that. And then later it became a thing we did mostly with vocal comping. You'd mute you automate your mutes or your fader movements to comp a vocal. So yeah, that was the automation. And that was the E series, and then that was closely followed by the G series later. late 80s probably, I think that came out. Just better, standard automation on all of them, I think. The EQ was slightly different. There was a few sort of improvements, and it kept going. Obviously, there was the K series, which was the one made famous by Dr. Dre. I think he loves the K. I think that was the last big format console they did.
E series, K series.
I know. There was a J. The J is the one that really got used a lot by a lot of hip hop guys because it had a much rounder bottom end, much deeper bottom end, and I think that's the one that Brainworks did the best with. I think I've got that, the J series one.
Have you?
Yeah, it's just a different bottom end.
And so all of these are available as plugins?
Yeah, they're pretty much, I think they are all available as plugins, yeah.
And so what have you been using
so the E-Series
the
one...
E-Series for?
I mean, the thing about it to say is that if you've already got Channel Strip 2 and maybe you've got the 4KB, you're probably thinking, why do I need the E-Series? You know, what for? They're all going to be pretty similar. They are similar, but they're not the same. And I would say that Channel Strip 2 is probably the cleanest, the most clinical of them. 4KB is definitely the most analog sounding. It's the one with the most amount of harmonics, easiest to overdrive. It's quite a... Dirty's the wrong word, but it's that kind of thing.
Dirty is never the wrong word, sure.
And I'd say that E-Series is bang in the middle of those two things. It's the best of both worlds, and that's why it's kind of become my go-to. And the mixes I've been doing, the mix I played you a little while ago,
Yep.
it's just E-Series.
Is it?
Just love it.
Yeah.
On everything. Every single drum channel. Everything, really. Just because I'm so used to that sound.
So you have them open on all your channels across your...
Pretty
you
much.
Use that
I mean,
as
every
your,
now and again I'll be like, I need to try something else, and I'll fire up something else. But generally it's that. I love the fact that on the plugin, you know, just like on the desk, you can reorder whether the dynamics are first or the EQs first. So that you got the filters, the dynamics, and the EQ, and you can reorder them.
What do you have first?
Always filters, then EQ, then dynamics. Only because to me that is the SSL sound, is pushing the EQ into the dynamics.
Yeah.
You know, but every now and again I have to flip it. It just depends what you're doing. Quite often,
Flip reverse it.
Flip reverse it, man.
Yeah.
Well, every now and again I find, like, if I'm gating toms or something like that and I'm having a bit of a nightmare, I'll just flip around where the dynamics sit in the chain. But yeah, I think it's just a cool sounding thing. It's got a few extra gimmicks. Obviously, it's got the width on a stereo one. You can widen the width. It's got the, you know, the traditional looking fader with the cut and the solo and stuff, which looks just like the desk.
Just for reference here, we used to have these pictures of these plugins on printouts.
We did, which
down
are over
here,
there.
and now Sean's pointing at a screen because they're now on a screen just over here that
So
you can't see.
we can see what they look like.
Yeah.
You'll see them on the screen.
See them on the screen, but that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it looks exactly like the channel strip. It's just been reordered to be a square rather than in a long strip, which would look terrible on a screen.
Excellent stuff. Where do we get it?
So just go to the SSL website. So it's $263.99, which is strong, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's strong.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot.
That's a lot of money.
Where do you come up with a price like that? $263.99.
I presume whenever this happens, it's some conversion from dollars.
It's, you know what it is?
like that.
You know, it's either conversion from dollars, you're right,
Yeah.
or it's putting a percentage on top of a cost, isn't it? And
Maybe.
it's a computer spit it out.
Yeah, maybe it's that.
It's not somebody gone, right, what would make a poor sound engineer buy this?
But there's two other options when you want to get it. The other one, obviously, is they do this subscription thing where you get all their plugins for a monthly amount, which I think is quite reasonable. I'm not a big fan of subscriptions, but you can do that. The other thing is, if you own either the UC1, the UF1, or the UF8 hardware, they'll let you get it for 99 quid, which is what I did. I bought it straight away. I thought that's a bargain. I'm
having that.
I'm going to use it all the time. I'll get my money definitely out of that. Demo, full 14 days.
Can't argue, can you?
No, the SSL software, it's got to be said, they have like an installer software plugin management software which you have to download.
Yeah.
Some of them are really sketchy. The SSL one's really good. Tells you when things need updating, makes it very easy. You can install an update from the app. So yeah, I like it.
Cool, they're certainly making some headway. I mean, I know you're what do we call you, some sort of SSL shill.
I have no arrangement with them. I just like their stuff. I just like it.
But that's great. Yeah, I like the management software. It looks great. The mix you played certainly sounds pretty amazing. So brings us to that point, Sean. I think is the SSL 4KE shit?
No, not a chance. I think it's awesome. If you're into using channel strips, you know, you might be one of those people that wants, do you know what, I want all my drums going through Neve. I want my vocals going through API, and I want everything else going through SSL. you know, if you collect channel strips and you want an SSL one, for me, this is the definitive SSL one.
There we go. Definitive SSL, the 4KE. Certainly not shit. 14-day trial. Go and do it. Before you do that, subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, you can do that and like the video. That'd be handy. We also have an Instagram, which is Studio Life 101. We have a Patreon and we have a merch store and a whole bunch of other stuff, and all the details are down there.
So go and have a look, click some links, leave some comments, let us know what you think, and we'll see you next time.
Adios.